Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here today. I'd like to recognize some members of the council who are with us. Bill Pridemore, the Chair of Budget and Finance, is here. Buddy Baker, the Chair of Public Safety. We also have Larry Hagar, Walter Hunt, and Linnell Matthews, and thank them for being here. With me today here in front of the Criminal Justice Center are Metro Police Chief Steve Anderson and Sheriff Darren Hall. As you know, I've spent my entire time in office making public safety a top priority. Both of these men have played major roles in making our city safer, and I thank them both for their hard work and their dedication. The Criminal Justice Center has served its purpose for the past 33 years, but its useful life as an efficient and safe law enforcement facility is over. As a former public defender for 16 years, I spent more than my fair share of time in this building, and I've watched this facility, which once looked shiny and new, slowly decay into something that clearly doesn't do what it was designed to do. There's a long history of litigation over the conditions in the Criminal Justice Center. In the late 1980s, less than 10 years after the Criminal Justice Center was built, a federal judge mandated changes. That case lasted 15 years and cost the city millions of dollars in facility upgrades, increased staffing, and costs of litigation. The CJC's plumbing is in serious question. The elevators are unreliable. The building floods regularly. The fire detection system has not worked for 3 years, requiring staff to personally conduct fire watches around the clock. And the problems go on. After reviewing a facility assessment conducted by independent experts over the past year and comparing the cost of renovating the Criminal Justice Center versus moving its operations, we've come to the conclusion that relocating the Davidson County Sheriff's operations and the Metro Police Headquarters is the best, safest, most financially sound thing we can do for Nashville's public safety. Renovations to the Criminal Justice Center and other aging sheriff office facilities and the cost of relocating inmates during the renovation period would be $103 million. Renovations of the police headquarters and relocation of the staff during the process would cost an additional $24.5 million. But even after all that time and expense and inconvenience, we would still have an inefficient building with no room for expansion. So today, I'm recommending that Metro government move the sheriff's downtown operations to property the city already owns on Harding Place, the campus that's best known for the South Police Precinct. The South Police Precinct would move further into southeast Davidson County, closer to where it now needs to be considering the population growth in that area. The 163-acre Metro property on Harding Place, which also holds 3 existing detention facilities, is large enough to accommodate the sheriff's headquarters and other operations for many years. All told, constructing new facilities for the sheriff's office at Harding Place will cost $110 million. At the same time, the Metro Police Headquarters would move to land on Jefferson Street. Thank you, Sharon. That we will ask the Metro Council to acquire. That move will cost $23 million, and that will be a significant move for our city. Relocating the South Precinct will cost $10 million, and it will cost $6 million to relocate other police functions. All of this taken together will cost nearly $150 million, the largest investment in public safety infrastructure that this city will have ever made. I will include this project in the capital spending plan I'll submit to the Metro Council on April 30th. Chief Anderson and Sheriff Hall will brief the council later today. The availability of this property will present great opportunities for future leaders of our city, this property here, who could sell it or find another public use for it. Metro government also could expect to see $2 million in annual staff savings, another $1 million in utility and maintenance savings, and various other savings from shared services in the sheriff's office as a result of using more efficient facilities. This is not a decision we made quickly or lightly, but it became increasingly clear that it is the right thing to do. This investment will enhance our law enforcement and public safety operations for decades to come, and we need to get started on it now, not 6 months or a year or 5 years from now, but now. We can't afford to wait on replacing and relocating this facility. We could hold it together with gum and tape and baling wire, but we'd just be kicking the can down the road, and we're not going to do that. There is nothing more important than keeping our citizens safe. I look forward to joining you on a tour of the Criminal Justice Center that the sheriff will lead following the speaking program. And now I'd like to turn the podium over to Sheriff Hall. Thank you.
My job was to get the weather right today. I want to know that I approached the mayor over a year ago and asked him, and I told him that I was concerned about the conditions of our downtown operations. I wasn't worried that he would understand that, because I think I first met a much darker-headed Carl Dean in those jails about 25 years ago. I was darker-headed too, by the way. I knew he understood the criminal justice system, and more importantly, the Criminal Justice Center. He had been in it and he was aware of it. And as he mentioned, he has supported public safety like no other mayor. And at this time in his term and coming to the end, it was my goal to get his attention to try to do something about it now. He not only listened to me, but he then funded over $1 million to study not just the Criminal Justice Center, but the long-range plan for what is the criminal justice system. All of our facilities that are in the downtown area, and of course the police department. That study funded what were the consultants and the experts who spent over a year and a tremendous amount of time turning up everything we do, every facility we operate, and have laid out a plan for us to consider today. That plan didn't surprise a lot of us who live in and out of the Criminal Justice Center, the staff who work there every day. But I think it's important to point out some of the things that were documented. It's clear that all of our facilities have reached their end of life. As the mayor mentioned, the 33-year-old Criminal Justice Center has been much overused in those 33 years. As we sit here today, we have no fire alarm system in the building. We have officers who are having to walk in and out of cell blocks to see if they smell or see fire. We can do much better. That is not repairable. It is antiquated. The system is not able to be fixed. The media has well documented this last several years several of our plumbing failures, and these aren't small things. Unfortunately, it's not the rain that causes that failure. It also shuts down our operation. We no longer can book prisoners and release prisoners during that time. It's a very difficult and dangerous time for the folks who live here and, of course, the folks who work here. Our complete electrical system is outdated in the building. You cannot buy parts. It is held together with Band-Aids and bubble gum. There are issues pertaining to the security in that building that I cannot talk about today for the risk that it puts the staff and inmates at even further risk. The plan not only points out all the problems that we feel, but also a solution. We've all lived through the last several years of watching the Metro Police Department move into a decentralization model, moving precincts into the community, which is the way it ought to be. But in our branch of law enforcement, centralizing our services is the way we need to be. We are on 8 different places today. We need to be centralized, and as the report points out, there are efficiencies built into that. The savings to our agency alone in centralizing what we do is somewhere between $2 and $3 million in staff alone. The maintenance and utility costs by centralizing us is estimated at over $1 million. And putting us on the same campus allows us to share services like laundry and kitchen for feeding, as you can imagine, over 1 million meals a year. We believe centralizing is the efficient thing to do. It also increases our public safety. We will now have 1 secure campus to secure, much simpler to do than 3 spread all over Nashville. We would dramatically decrease the number of inmate movements all over the streets and highways of our town. 12 years ago, after having been elected sheriff, one of the goals I had was to try to find and remove the duplication of services between us and the police department. One of the things we focused a lot of our energy on was the booking process. We implemented 2 mobile booking units out in the streets of our town to try to get the police officers back into their zones, to reduce the downtime that creates. I have worked here for a long time, and some 25 years ago, when you booked all arrestees downtown, it could take nearly the entire shift of the arresting officer before they would get out of booking. We have worked aggressively in trying to reduce that time, and the mobile units now reduce that to 19 minutes per arrestee. It takes somewhere in the neighborhood of 90 minutes to do it downtown today. I think Chief Anderson is going to deal with this in detail. Our goal is to reduce the downtime of police officers, and this plan allows us to do just that. It not only benefits the police officers, but it benefits everyone who visits and uses our facilities, the families of all the inmates. It's unfortunate that they have to come downtown in sometimes a very difficult situation to traffic and pay to park and walk inside this facility that was never designed for a quality exchange between a family member and a person who is in custody. It also improves the access for our attorneys, who, as you can imagine, use our services regularly. And most important to me, it improves it for our employees. This plan, although we've tried to keep it secret, has leaked out internally. I've had officers walk up to me and say, "Thank you for the raise." And I wasn't really sure of exactly what they were talking about, but you have to understand, when you drive down here and work in this jail, and tomorrow if we get to move, and hypothetically moving down to the Harding Place site, they no longer have to pay to park. And some of these folks, as you can imagine, are trying to make their life in public safety, and anything we can do to improve the morale of that person is important to me. So the benefits and the solutions of us centralizing and moving across town, I think, benefit all. And in closing, I just want you to remember this. The report documents it. We live it every day, and the mayor indicated it just a minute ago. Doing nothing is not an option. Consolidating all of our operations in the south side of Nashville is the most cost-effective for us all. And this will set the sheriff's office up and our infrastructure for the next 30 years. I'd like to ask Chief Anderson to come up and deliver his remarks. Thank you.
Good morning. Before I get started, I would like to introduce some people that we have here with us. As the mayor talked about, our plan is to move our headquarters over on Jefferson Street, and we want to make sure that we're good neighbors over there and that we do all that we can to enhance that neighborhood. So with us this morning is Pastor Darrell Talifaro from the Mount Zion Baptist Church, which would be right across the interstate from us. From the Corinthian, Mississippi Missionary Baptist Church, Pastor Enoch Fuzz. I did that on purpose, Pastor Fuzz. From the Greater Faith Missionary Baptist Church, Reverend Michael Joyner. Hopewell Monroe Baptist Church, Reverend Derek Moore. And Pastor Frank Stevenson from St. Luke Primitive Baptist Church. And Mr. Trey Campbell from Knockout Wings, who would be our direct neighbor just across 14th. Thank you for being here, Mr. Campbell. From the perspective of the police department, This is just a necessary and vital step as we go forward. As I was talking earlier, this is a plan that would have been a good plan 3 to 5 years ago. It's a very necessary plan today. This is a plan that not only includes relocation, it includes giving us the ability to enhance our neighborhood service. This facility, just like the sheriff's facility, is 33 years old. The plumbing in here, the electrical system, and especially the air conditioning and heating system wasn't designed for what we use it for today. When we moved into this building, we had one personal computer, one desktop computer. Today we have over 300 in that building. The heating and air units, so in some places of the building the temperature is stifling, in some places it's cold, especially during the summer months. We have to move portable heaters down into the investigative section just to keep people from going home sick from the heat. General services, Metropolitan Government General Services, and outside contractors have done a very good job of keeping this patch together, but there comes a time when fix and repair, the cost of fixing and repairing just outweigh the cost of relocating. We also have structural issues in this building, just as the sheriff does. On the corner here on the front side of the building, there's leakage into the building that's causing, every time it rains, it's causing major foundation damage. The only fix is to tear up that end of the street and replace the foundation. Our 2 elevators are very frequently, weekly, out of service. Sometimes when both of them are out of service the next time, at the same time, our persons with accessibility issues aren't able to get up and down, and certainly in the case of an emergency, whether it be a visitor or one of our employees, removing themselves from the building in the event of fire or some chemical hazard would be very difficult. And then frankly, this building is just inconsistent with our current decentralization model. This building was built for a centralized police department, and we are no longer a centralized police department. If you go in this building, you'll see that some of the areas are very cramped. Persons working side by side, elbow to elbow, and then you look at all the wasted space there in the atrium. The only feasible way to renovate this building is to completely rehab it, and that would involve us moving completely out of this building for 1 to 2 years. Estimated cost of that would be about $2.5 million. We have a very extensive computer section up there, IT, and we only want to move that once. That is very critical to the operation not only of the police department, but of the whole government, and we can't take a chance on relocating that to temporary headquarters. And unlike the historic courthouse that we see across the street, this building was not designed with the structural soundness that to withstand the ages, nor does it have that historic value where preservation might outweigh the cost of renovation. Likewise, the South Precinct was built in 1997. It's nearing the end of its useful life cycle, and frankly, it's in the wrong place. It's in the wrong place in terms of how we have divided up the county into 8 precincts and hopefully soon 9 precincts, and it's not in a neighborhood. We're a neighborhood police department, and we would be better served to relocate that to a neighborhood in southeast Davidson County. Mayor Dean's proposal would relocate the headquarters for the police department on Jefferson Street. We want to be a neighbor in Jefferson Street, a good neighbor. We want to be part of its heritage. We're looking to build a building that would complement the heritage of Jefferson Street. And I think if you look around the neighborhood, Midtown Hills out on 12th Avenue South and the West Precinct on Charlotte are examples wherein we moved into a neighborhood and automatically the neighborhood started to revitalize itself. And we want to be part of that catalyst on Jefferson Street. The sheriff alluded to the booking issues. Here at the Criminal Justice Center, it's about 86 minutes a police officer's out of service. From the time he arrives to the time he leaves, 86 minutes to get a prisoner booked. The sheriff has studied that over the years. His 2 mobile booking units have streamlined that process, got it down to 19 minutes on the average. So you can see that's a little over an hour. That's an hour that you could have your officers back into the neighborhoods. When you look at the total time, that 60 minutes equals 19.7 employees, 19.7 police officers that we could put back on the street with no increase in budget. That is about $1.5 million each year that we would gain in police officer services with no increase in budget. So we're certainly looking forward to a streamlined booking process out on Harding Place with the sheriff. With that, I would turn it over back to Mayor Dean.
We're going to do a tour, but we could answer a few questions now if you have any you'd like to ask any one of us.
Yeah, Mayor, if you could talk about a timeline, when are you thinking of moving out or starting breaking ground? What do you think's the time?
Well, the process would be that this would go in front of the council as part of this year's budget process, and it would take at least well into next year for the design to be completed, and then the construction process would begin. So, you're talking at least a couple of years.
Mayor, could you talk about the process for this property in terms of, opening it up for other opportunities, uses, and what you'll be doing on that end and the timeline for that?
Yeah, we won't be doing anything. This property is owned by the city, and the motivation behind this project is really less to do with this property than it is to handle the criminal justice aspects of this correctly, and to take advantage of setting up a process where our criminal justice infrastructure needs are met for the next few decades. And so the next mayor, the next council, will be the ones making those decisions. It could be for a public purpose, it could be for private purposes, but whatever, that's off into the future.
But the building itself would become empty, right, once they move out. There's no other immediate uses.
Right. No. But that's something that'll be looked at the next mayor, next council.